This man needs the fire department. Yes, and lots of other people need the fire department too. People all over the city are reporting fires. Little fires, big fires. Everybody wants to report a fire.
The Bowling Green Fire Department has to be prepared to respond 24 hours a day to a variety of emergencies on a moment's notice. In this edition of Spotlight on Bowling Green, we will explore the actions taken when an emergency occurs and what steps the Bowling Green Fire Department takes to protect the lives and property of the citizens of Bowling Green.
The roles of the Bowling Green Fire Department are to protect the lives of those that live here and that may visit here.
Part of our roles and responsibilities is emergency response. Those emergency responses include fires, of course, EMS, emergency medical services on first responder level, technical rescues such as water rescues, rope rescues, things like that, and also air rescue firefighting for aircrafts in case there's an emergency there, and also hazardous materials.
When a fire emergency is called into 911, the dispatcher has the responsibility to assess the situation and send the emergency notification and information to the Bowling Green Fire Department.
Whenever someone calls 911, the dispatcher will ask them a series of questions to confirm, is this a fire, is this not a fire? If a fire is confirmed, then they're immediately going to try to get the occupant to evacuate the premises. Getting the occupants out is number one. When the Bowling Green Fire Department gets a call when we're on shift, the dispatch drops the tones for the individual stations. If we're in station during the day, we may be engaged in other activities such as training, such as physical fitness for the day, maybe doing computer administrative work. So we immediately have to drop what we're doing and try to listen to the call and go ahead and make the response. Get on the truck. If we need to have our turnout gear on, we'll put our turnout gear on ahead of time.
The electronic portion of it, we get notification from dispatch depending on the emergency of what station is going to respond. The way that we decide on what station is to respond or stations to respond is through risk assessment in our community and also the type. For instance, a fire takes more human resources to actually meet all the tasks that comes with the fire. So therefore you get more trucks, you get more people. EMS is typically a one-truck response because we can provide that service with one truck.
A lot of times you can determine just from the dispatch itself, from the dispatcher's voice, just how serious it is. They'll give voice clues as to whether this is an actual structure fire. They may actually give you multiple calls. They say, well, we have multiple calls on this incident, and that lets you know immediately we do have something.
One way the Bowling Green Fire Department works to serve the citizens of Bowling Green is by measuring their response times in order to make improvements. The response time continuum is the measure of the time between when the caller dials 911 and when assistance arrives.
The time continuum is based on National Fire Protection Association 1710. There's an actual measurement that we use, and there's a time continuum that we're shooting for. That time for fires is 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and for EMS response is 6 minutes. Now that is the benchmark. That's what we strive to achieve. You have call answering time, which is dispatch picking up the phone and understanding what the emergency is. Then you have turnout time, which is after dispatch notifies emergency personnel that there is an emergency, and then you have roll time, which is from basically when we get on the truck and roll to the scene. Fortunately, we're supported well by the city, and our resource allocation is good. We're in the right areas in the city. It can be said that 90 times out of 100, from the time that dispatch picks up your phone, we are on your front doorstep in 8 minutes and 12 seconds. That's pretty good if you think about the logistics of that. If you really sit down and look at the time continuum, there's only two places you can improve that time. That is call answering time, which is in dispatch's hand, and turnout time, which is in our hands. We can't drive faster. That's not wise, number one, is driving faster. We have preemption systems almost all over this city, which actually gives us right of way at lights. So the speed of us getting to the scene in the truck is pretty well set. And most people probably don't recognize it. They think we fly, when actually the average speed of an emergency response is about 35 miles per hour.
Once the Bowling Green Fire Department gets on the scene, there are procedures in place that determine the approach the firefighters will take to suppress the fire and save lives.
When the first units get on scene, they will give us an on-scene report. They'll tell us if there are any smoke or fire showing. They'll tell us what type of initial response they're going to do, if it's going to be a fire attack or whether they're out investigating the smoke or fire situation. And then we have procedures. This unit does this unit does this when we get on scene, that kind of helps the division of labor so we don't repeat various tasks. Makes the response go a whole lot smoother. A lot of times we have information that comes from pre-planning and from inspections that can determine what type of structure it is, what is the occupancy, whether it's a residential occupancy or commercial occupancy. And a lot of that determines what we do upon arrival. And also with that, with the pre-plans, we have the hydrants that we'll actually tag into for that response, and what kind of secondary water sources may be needed as well. Several tasks we try to accomplish when we get on scene. One of the things is trying to remove the products of combustion. One of the first things that happens in a fire is people die of smoke inhalation, probably first and foremost. So we try to remove those products out through ventilation and finding the seat of the fire and putting the fire out. Those are two of the primary methods of saving people's lives, because like I said, smoke inhalation is probably the number one killer. After that, we go through and we search the premises. We do what's called a primary search, and then we do a secondary search. During the primary search, that's in conjunction with the fire attack. So we'll have a crew come in, they'll be doing the fire attack. We'll have another crew come in and they'll search the occupancy. We'll start out with various parts depending on the time of the day. If it's at nighttime, most people are going to be in bed at that time, so we'll try to find the bedrooms. We'll try to get to those areas first, because more than likely that's where those occupants are going to be. If it's a daytime response, they may be in the living room or a kitchen, so we may try to find those. If we don't find anyone, then that's a great day. If we do find someone, the next responsibility is getting those people out as soon as possible and getting them to medical attention as soon as possible. We try to rescue pets as well. Obviously, we're not going to trade a firefighter's life for a pet's life, but we're going to do our very best to rescue pets if at all possible.
After a fire has been extinguished, the Bowling Green Fire Department has the charge of trying to prevent further property damage to the structure, as well as determining the cause of the fire.
After the fire is out or under control, then we're going to begin the process of what's called loss control or salvage and overhaul. And what we'll do is we'll set up a series of tarps to try to protect other areas from water damage. We'll try to shut down the sprinkler system or stop if it's a single or just a couple sprinkler heads. We'll try to stop those before we get it shut down to minimize the water damage if possible. And then after we've done that, we have water removal products and equipment that are on our loss control trailer. We'll call that trailer in, and that crew will come in and they'll continue the water removal.
The fire department looks at every fire to determine where it started and how it started, which is an origin and cause investigation. Once that fire investigation is completed, then that fire is classified in one of four ways. It's either an accidental fire, an incendiary fire, which is an intentionally set fire, a natural cause fire, or it might be undetermined. In a household, the top two things that cause fires are careless cooking and then fires from heating. When we do a fire investigation, there's a lot of paperwork obviously involved in that, and we try to assist and cooperate any agency that is involved in the insurance industry to help them as they're looking at the fire as well, because they send people in for various different reasons when there is a fire, and we want to try to work with them to try to help them to serve their customers better, which serves our citizens as well.
Fire safety, preparedness, and prevention are key components that the Bowling Green Fire Department uses to protect lives and property.
We encourage residents to go to the city's website and download our home fire safety inspection checklist. And then they print that out. They can take that around their home, look for hazards that are listed on the sheet, and then they can correct them as needed. We also educate the public on fire safety, and we teach thousands of citizens every year. We teach the young and the old and everyone in between. We try to reach every population here in Bowling Green. We teach small children not to be afraid of the firefighters. We also want to make sure that they know how to escape a fire and call for help. And then we also want to teach everyone in between how to use a fire extinguisher if the need arises, and then to teach them to escape properly, and just all the different aspects that we need to worry about as far as fire safety for every population and every age group here in Bowling Green. We do pre-plans of buildings here in Bowling Green to look for several different things. One of the obvious things we would want to know would be if there's any hazardous material storage, if there's confined spaces, things of that nature. But we also look for the building's construction type, which is very important when you're fighting a fire, to know how the building's going to react to that fire. We also look for the closest hydrant and the best entry points to the building, among other things. And then by doing that pre-plan, we have a plan of action in place before a fire occurs so that we know exactly what we're going to need to do when we get there. We also encourage businesses to install a Knox box on their building. And what that is, it's a small metal box that we only have a key to. No one else has a key to that box, and it contains the keys to the building. And then when we get to a business and it is on fire, if we've got to wait for someone to respond with a key, then obviously the fire has taken hold and it's increasing every second. So we want to have quick access to that building, and that Knox box allows us to do that.
We try to use the least destructive means possible to open doors if we don't have those keys. We try to use the least destructive means possible of breaking windows. We're constantly trying to think and keep it in the forefront of minimizing as much property damage as possible.
Well, what I would like to tell drivers on the road when they encounter a fire truck or an emergency vehicle, whoever it is, police, fire, is I guess the main thing is for your safety and our safety, and really the person that's called us, it may be somebody that's called for the emergency, is to be aware of your surroundings when you're driving. I'm sure we all, including myself, get lulled into our own small world in our car, but be aware of your surroundings. Be looking in your rearview mirrors every so often, be looking in your side mirrors every so often. And typically we travel on main thoroughfares, right? Scottsville Road, Bypass, Louisville Road. So those types of roads, just try to have a little bit more awareness that, you may actually have a fire truck or a police officer or whatever type of emergency responder coming through that part of town.
If you would like to learn more about this or any other Spotlight on Bowling Green program, contact City Hall at 270-393-3000.